my picture took, but I'm not getting asked any questions.
Ask him why he snores. I said, ask him why he snores.
Why snore? Why do you snore?
I don't snore. Grandma just tells little stories about it. She just says that I'm a snorer, but I'm not really. What's your next question, sir?
What year did Grandpa go in the Air Force?
What year did you go into the Air Force?
Oh, I went into the Air Force in 1943.
Wow.
That was a long time ago.
Yes, it was.
Ask him what he did in the Air Force.
What did you do?
Well, I was a radio operator, and I was flying airplanes as a radio operator, and I flew all over the world. I flew
Wow.
all over the United States, and South America,
Name some
and
countries.
Africa, and in Europe. I went to Italy, and I went to France, and then I went to Egypt, and I went to India, and I flew from India to China. I did a lot of things in the Air Force. Spent a lot of time flying.
And when did you get out?
I got out in October 1945.
And then what did you do?
Well, I stayed home, and you know, for about a year, and I had a job, and I worked in a big stock brokerage in New York for a year, and then I went to college for a couple of 3 years. I was going to become an engineer, and I got tired of studying to be an engineer, so then I was going to become a newspaper journalist, and then I found out that newspaper journalists didn't make any money. So I stopped going to college, and I decided that I'd go out into the world and learn how to make money. So that's when I went into the insurance business. And I stayed in the insurance business the whole rest of my life until I retired. And now I'm a retired ex-Air Force radio operator flyer and ex-insurance man, and I'm an ex-skier and an ex-motorcycle racer. I don't do these things anymore. Mostly all I do is eat and sleep and shoot pool. I'm a pool shooter these days. It's what you might call a wasted life.
Eat and aggravate his wife.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, you better keep that thing on me. I aggravate Grandma all the time.
That's his job.
That's my job. That's my main job, to aggravate her. Oh, I worked on a pickle truck for a while.
Wow.
And we used to actually make pickles in big barrels
Wow.
on the truck. We used to do all of that, and we traveled all over New York City, and we used to deliver pickles to delicatessen stores. And we sold mustard also, big jars, gallon jars of mustard.
Wow.
And we sold barrels of mustard too. They were little kegs full of mustard. It was amazing. I don't think they sell mustard. Well, they sell the big gallon jars anymore. I don't think they sell kegs of mustard anymore.
What kind of planes did you fly when you're on here?
I flew in a lot of different airplanes. I flew in two-seat training planes, and I flew in small bombers. I flew in a Martin Baltimore A-30 and a Martin B-26 and a Boeing B-17 and and then I flew in a lot of transport planes. I flew in a C-47 transport plane and a C-54 transports and C-46 transports, and oh yeah, and I flew one bombing mission in a B-25 bomber over China. And I can't remember how many. Flew a lot of different planes in a lot of different places. It was a very interesting career.
B-17 was the Flying Fortress, right?
Yep, that was the Flying Fortress, the B-17, a big bomber. Now, I didn't fly them on bombing raids. What we did with them was we flew them across the Atlantic and delivered them to the airfields in England, where then the bombing crews took over, and then they flew them and they bombed Germany. Of course, we were at war with Germany in those days.
Wow.
What was it like when all 4 engines started up?
It was really nice. It was they kind of rumbled when they started up, but it was really exciting when you got at the end of the runway and ready to take off, and and what you did was everything, all the controls, the throttles and the fuel stuff. Pushed it forward, and all 4 engines were going as fast and as hard as they could, and the whole airplane shook. It really, it was amazing. It was really amazing. And then, you rolled down the runway and you took off, and then, once you got up a couple of thousand feet, then you cut back on the engine power and everything, and it got pretty smooth, but it was always noisy, because they didn't have any insulation. It wasn't like flying in airliners today, the jets, where it's pretty quiet inside. Those airplanes, those planes back in World War II, they were noisy. That's why I'm almost deaf these days, because it hurts your hearing. That's why you should never listen to music too loud, because it destroys the hairs in your ear that actuate the nerves that help you to listen, to hear good. So you should never listen to music too loud, especially when you have headsets on. You should play it just enough so you can hear it, never loud. When you see kids with real blasters in going by in cars with the bass going boom, 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 all they're doing is making themselves deaf. They're not too smart.
What about motorcyclists with loud pipes?
That was the same thing. They're pretty loud, especially if you're riding a motorcycle with loud exhausts on them. Boy, I never owned a loud exhaust motorcycle.
Wow.
Mine were always, pretty good. Of course, when you had dirt bikes and you ran dirt tracks, you had a muffler on there, but those are pretty loud. And then when you're running with a dozen motorcycles all around you, that got pretty noisy. That's not too good for your ears either. But it was so much fun.
And
Plus you're breathing dust and
fumes,
gasoline oil mixture.
Well, my lungs are okay.
what about when you're a smuggler in the army?
Well, it was small time stuff, but we used to fly from Baltimore, Maryland, down to Nassau Island in the Bahamas, and we were delivering airplanes to the British Air Force down there, and we'd fly down to Florida and then out over the water to the island of Nassau, and we'd leave the planes there. But you see, in Nassau, you could buy a lot of good stuff that you couldn't find in the United States, like Johnny Walker Scotch whiskey, which is my favorite, and Canadian Club Scotch whiskey, and silk stockings, and doeskin, ladies' white doeskin gloves. So you'd buy all that stuff, and you'd fill up your bag with all that stuff, and then when you came back to the United States, you had to go through inspection. But because we were in the Air Force, in the Army, and it was a wartime, they didn't inspect our stuff. So that we were able to bring all of that, the word for it is contraband, which means illegal. And we were able to bring all that stuff in and bring it back up north with us, which was, it was pretty good.
But I like the part of the story where a friend from high school, or you had a friend who showed up, and his job was they knew that there was a smuggling operation going on.
Oh.
This might have been when you were.
No, this was in Cairo, in
Cairo,
Egypt, and
okay.
it wasn't my friend. It was one of my
Okay.
it was one of my illegal partner's friends, and we met him in Egypt, and he told us that the authorities were looking for us because they were aware of what we were doing in Egypt, and so we stopped doing it. That's, and so they probably kept looking for us, but they couldn't find us because we weren't doing it anymore. That was pretty interesting, for a 19-year-old kid, because that's how old I was then, and it was kind of what you did then. It wasn't right, but it was what you did.